Hey Timberwolves, Miss Robolino coming in for your lesson on the Mexican Revolution. I'm so sorry I couldn't be here today, but I wanted to take an opportunity to go over the Mexican Revolution from what you did on Thursday with the sub. So if you can just please follow along with me and take out your notes, and we're going to go through and make sure you have everything you need to go ahead and prepare for the Mexican Revolution quiz that will be happening next week. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So as you remember, the Mexican Revolution is very unique, especially when you're taking a look at what happened and how long it took for the revolution to occur. So let's go ahead and let's take a moment. So yesterday you took and you saw the Mexican War for Independence started with Miguel Hidalgo. So I'm going to read this out loud and just to kind of refresh your memory. So only 4 years after the Louisiana Purchase of 1803, Napoleon, the Emperor of France, conquered Spain and removed the Spanish king from power. This conquest would have profound effects in Mexico. Nearly all Mexicans supported their deposed, overthrown king. However, a struggle for power broke out between Creoles, the people of Spanish descent, who had been born in Mexico, and Peneculares, people who had been born in Spain. In 1808, the Peneculares overthrew the viceroy and took control of the country. In response, Creole groups across Mexico began to talk of taking up arms against the government. So here's a couple things to kind of think about here. On Wednesday, we talked about centralism and federalism, and we took the opportunity to take a look at what was going on in Spain. Spain was a centralist government. So basically what that means is that we had a monarch who was the center, and from there they controlled everything. With Napoleon gaining power in Europe and on his way to become a mass controller of the continent of Europe, he took over Spain. And from there, he decided to take over the colonies that Spain had, which included New Spain and this idea of Mexico. So as you can tell from here, there was a huge issue with Napoleon coming in, and they did not really like him, which would make sense because they are Spanish and they respect their Spanish crown. If you remember about the Creoles and the Peneculares come from Spain, so they love their king. And the Creoles have a really good life inside of Mexico, so they really don't want the king to leave. So something really important to put down in your notes would be that right here, a struggle of power broke out between the Creoles and the Peneculares. Okay, so once we start to see the Peneculares are going to be losing control, with Spain being controlled by France, the Creoles really don't want things to change. So they figured this is the opportunity to kind of take charge. This is exactly what the mestizos needed. They needed the Creoles on their side. Okay, as we continue on with the reading, as Mexico was struggling to become independent, some people decided that Texas should be independent too. One of those was Jose Gutierrez de Lara. When the Mexican fight for independence began, Gutierrez de Lara went to the United States to win support for the rebels. He decided to use Texas as a base for which to continue the fight. So again, remember from the centralism federalism notes, we learned that the ideas from America were starting to trickle into New Spain. The ideas of freedom, the ideas of separation of powers, being able to control your representatives and to vote them in and vote them out. So Jose Gutierrez de Lara decides to go to America and get that help. That's something else that you should be able to identify and maybe put down as an important event during this Mexican Revolution. As we continue, with secret support from the United States, Gutierrez raised an army in Louisiana, and they named themselves the Republican Army of the North. The army captured Nacogdoches and took control of the Spanish presidio, La Bahia. The Spanish soldiers laid siege to La Bahia for 4 months and failed to take back the fort. The Spanish army retreated back to San Antonio, but Gutierrez and his army followed them and defeated their forces. Gutierrez took governor prisoner, and the Republican Army of the North declared Texas independence. So here's something to think about. Gutierrez de Lara had support from America. And because of that, he was able to have a good militia. A militia is going to be an army of just commoners coming together to fight. And they called themselves the Republican Army of the North. Again, take a look at that, Republican, the idea of a republic having representatives. So they were able to defeat the Spanish army and create independence inside of Texas. So this is the first time Texas becomes independent. But as we read on, we're going to notice it was short-lived. Let's read on. The Constitution of New Mexico State of Texas disappointed many of the Anglo-American volunteers in the Republican Army of the North. They wanted it to be modeled after the U.S. Constitution, but their influence was dishearteningly little. Anglo-American volunteers were also excluded from positions of authority in the new government, so many abandoned the Republican Army and returned to Louisiana. So let's take a moment and let's digest that. So as we got American support, those people that came from America to help Texas become free, they got really upset when they realized that Jose Gutierrez Lara was not going to honor them inside as diplomats, and they were not going to be able to model that Texas off of the US Constitution. So Gutierrez de Lara lost support, and from there people from America who were helping him fight for independence left back to Louisiana. So that leaves him very weak, and I guess you can see what's going to happen now. He's going to be attacked and he's going to lose. So let's continue. Meanwhile, the Spanish Loyalist Army under General Joaquin de Arriendo moved into Texas from the south. On August 18, 1813, his army met the Republican Army of the North at the Battle of Medina. Arriendo won a decisive major victory over the rebels. He then led a campaign of revenge across Texas, executing or arresting hundreds of Tejanos. For now, the fight for independence in Texas slowed. So you see what happens? We see that the Spanish in the Battle of Medina were able to come into Texas and slaughter everyone who was coming in to make Texas independent. So Texas lost its independence very quickly. And then from there, it became part of the Spanish crown again. So you do need to know the Battle of Medina was a very bloody battle. And from there, Spain won. The Tejanos, especially Jose Gutierrez de Lara, he lost. And this was a big defeat for them. And it really puts Texas independence on hold for about another 40 years. Okay, 7 years later, the revolution gained momentum again. A new group had risen to power in Spain, and the Spanish loyalists in Mexico did not agree with their policies. As a result, many Spanish loyalists joined the side of the rebels and fought for the revolution. Together, the former loyalists and the rebels defeated the Spanish in 1821. Mexico had won its independence. So here we're starting to see there was a pause. From that pause, because of what came into power in Spain, the Creoles particularly didn't like what was there, and they figured it was best to leave and join the mestizos and everyone else in the revolution, and they won because of a joined effort. Okay, so this is just kind of going in from there. So let's go ahead and let's watch a quick video about the Mexican Revolution to help solidify what's going on here.
September 16 celebrates the start of the Mexican Independence War, one of the most prolonged armed conflicts in Spanish history. The war existed to free the Mexican people from the grip of the Spanish rule. On September 16, 1810, an insurgent parish priest named Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla rose against the new Spain. On this day, the priest rang the bells of his parish, and along with the insurgents, Ignacio Allende and Juan Aldama summoned the people to fight against the injustice of Spain. This historic event is now known as El Grito de Dolores. It's a date celebrated since then in Mexico. The war against colonial Spain ended 11 years later, on September 27, 1821, when the insurgents and the Mexican army seized Mexico City. The independent country thus became the Republic of Mexico.
So as you can see here, there is a huge idea of kind of what's going on. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what's next. So as we continue on from here, we're going to see El Grito de Dolores, okay, which is going to be right here, okay, happens right in 1810. This is a decade before Mexico wins independence. And at this time, Hidalgo is for the mestizos, and they unfortunately are unable to go ahead and gain the momentum to bring revolution or to overthrow the Spanish crown at this time. So it's not going to be for another decade before that even happens. So on the morning of September 16th, 1810, the parish priest of the town of Dolores, Miguel Hidalgo y Castilla, declared himself in open revolt against the Spanish rule from the church, launching the Mexican War of Independence. So again, he starts it, and I want you to kind of take a look over here at this right here at this picture. This is him, but take a look who's involved. We see different types of people. Take a look at their clothes. So it wasn't just the mestizos that were coming in, and you can kind of tell who would be a mestizo, who would be a native. So you can see right here, these would be our mestizos. Here we have a native. We have people of upper class, as you can tell by what they're wearing. So this revolution really does start, and it involves a lot of people. Take a look over here of this woman and this men. They're really of high descent on that hierarchy that we kind of went over. So these would be our Creoles. And again, we're seeing a large support for this. So I want to go ahead and show you a quick little video that kind of explains the ambiance of what's happening. Oops.
Ya va a misa con repiques.
So you can tell from there, the bells are ringing. He's about to give a speech, and he's going to go ahead and he's going to explain to the people that it's time to revolt. It's time to go ahead and start this revolution. You can go into this particular site and you can watch the whole entire video, but we're going to move on from there. So as you can tell, we're going to see the Grito de Dolores was the cry for the freedom. Now, as we start to see this new Republican army taking over, the Battle of Medina, as you can tell from the reading in the beginning, really starts this bloody battle. So let's go ahead and let's see. The Spanish Royalist Army under General Joaquin de Arriendo moved into Texas from the south on August 18th, 1813. So again, this is just 3 years after Hidalgo comes up. Okay, and they go ahead and take a look at what's going on. You can tell, look at the Spanish army here, and you can see that these would be the Republican army right here. And we're seeing that they're losing. Take a look at their faces, take a look at the weapons. Some here don't even have weapons. And we're seeing people retreating, running away. And you can tell this was just a complete disaster. So the Battle of Medina is just the war that the Mexicans lost, okay, and the Spanish won. And it's an important battle because it stops the Mexican Revolution from happening for a couple years before it gains momentum later. So you just need to understand that. So here's a quick video that's going to discuss that. So as you can tell, in a matter of 4 hours, 1,000 of the Tejanos are killed. So you can imagine the bloodbath this was. 4,000 Spanish troops come and just completely throw the revolution off its track. So please make sure you know that the Battle of Medina is where it stops the revolution, and then it has to pick up much later down. Okay. Now we can go ahead and we can kind of take a look over here at the first independence in Mexico. So when the army kind of comes in and they win their revolution, okay, with secret support from the United States, you need to know that this is because of the US, why this is able to happen with the independence in Texas, which only happens for a short while, because you need to remember it's stopped by the Spanish at the Battle of Medina. Okay, so many of the people left, and you can tell, taking a look here, forgotten battlefields of the first Texas Revolution. Okay, again, we're looking at the battlefield of Medina, taking a look, it's completely squashed. And here we have Jose Antonio de Lopez. Okay, here a brief biography of Don Jose Bernardo Gutierrez de Lara. Okay, and if you take a look at him, he kind of looks like a hero, doesn't he? So this is going to be a biography. Again, he's writing this himself. So if it's a biography, he's writing it. So he's going to paint himself in a different picture. But remember, look at this one, the forgotten battlefield. What happened in Medina? It was a bloodbath. It didn't work. So just kind of think about history in this way. Sometimes what we read is not always going to be true. It's all about perspective. So those that died or those that fought, remember how it really wasn't helpful and it was a complete disaster. But he is writing his own biography, and he is writing that he was a hero and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, because of how he wanted to rule Texas and not give anyone from America the chance to run inside the government, they left and they just let everything just fall to pieces. So this is in 1813, 3 years after Miguel Hidalgo rings the bells and starts the Mexican Revolution. So just some food for thought. Okay, and then as we kind of go from there, we have your main people inside, the Cry of Dolores. This is just kind of the whole idea of the speech. So it's the Cry of Dolores was a rallying cry uttered by the Catholic priest Miguel Hidalgo y Castilla from the town of Dolores on September 16, 1810. It called on the people to rise up and revolt against the Spanish colonial government. It is the event that marks the beginning of the Mexican War of Independence and is now celebrated as Mexican Independence Day. On the evening of September 15th each year, the President of Mexico starts the Independence Day celebrations by calling out the following: Grito from the national place in Mexico to 500,000 strong crowd in remembrance of the heroes of the war. Okay, so there is a translation of kind of what's happening, but it's Mexicanos, vivan los heroes que nos director Parcial, vivo Hidalgo, viva Morales, viva Josefa Ortiz de Dominguez, viva Allende. Okay, so it's long live Hidalgo, long live Morales. All of these people here is what's kind of being said. Long live Mexico, viva Mexico, live, long live Mexico, long live Mexico. Mexicans, okay, live the heroes, long live the heroes of these particular things. So this is long live the independence of the national. So again, this is the cry to get everyone to join. So I just want you to kind of think about how passionate it was. Think about the video that I showed you, how ominous it was when he went ahead and gave his speech. And then a timeline to kind of put things into perspective for you. So this is when Spain is colonized. So we have 1518 and 1810. So 15, 16, 17, 18, 300 years Spain has ruled Mexico. And then from here, you're looking at when Mexico gets its first start, but then it falls apart and it's not until 1821. So you can see Spain is finally kicked out. And then of course you should have been able to take your quiz right here. Just go through and don't forget to upload your acrostic poem onto Canvas. You just choose one of the words to go ahead and use and then create your notes. So that is basically a review of the Mexican Revolution, but I do want to go ahead and take just 2 minutes of your time to go ahead and show you this, which will be on Canvas. Feel free to pause it on here if you need it. So if we just kind of quickly take a glance, we're going to see this. Where did it go? Here it is. Yes. Cancel out. Sorry, I got signed out. Let me bring it up, and this will be up on Canvas for you. I'm going to go ahead and share it now. Just make sure you have this. This is just basically some notes to kind of look at. So again, the power struggle for these notes, the Republican Army of the North, and then the Loyalists winning the war. These are your three main parts, as I explained in the beginning. Okay, for the Mexican Revolution, the Grito de Dolores, some things to think out. People from all different backgrounds, I explained. The Battle of Medina, we're seeing that the Spanish army appears to be winning. The soldiers with fancier uniforms are the ones that are the Spanish. And then the first independence. People feel that Gutierrez led the first revolution, and most people don't know about him or the Battle of Medina. And again, the different perspectives, him being a hero, and then him just with the complete disaster of Medina. Okay, then here you have Jose Gutierrez de Lara, okay, filling in the sensory figure, some things to think about. What did he do? The government of Texas, that's what he did. His ideas, Texas should be independent. He doesn't want Texas to be part of Mexico. My army captured several towns in Texas and declared Texas independent from Spain. And then he went to the United States to look for help. These are just some things to kind of think about him. So when you see him, think about it. Texas being independent, and then think about him in specifically being a love for Texas to be its own country. And then taking a look here about his path, let me just go ahead and just put this in a bigger mode, in present mode, and you're going to see he starts over here from Nacogdoches, coming from here from Louisiana to Nacogdoches, taking over Trinidad, moving his way to San Antonio, and then over here in Medina. And this is where it stops. This is where he stopped, because this is where the Battle of Medina happened. So go ahead, take a few minutes to look at this. Make sure you have this. This will be on Canvas for you as well. Okay, and then I'll just go back over here so you can kind of see it. Feel free to pause it if you need, but other than that, that's everything. Be sure to get ready for your vocab quiz. You'll have the remainder of the time to do that. Other than that, you guys have a good one. I'll see you on Monday. Bye.